Friday! March 20th, 2026, in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona at 103 degrees. Woo-hoo! That's never happened before, triple digits, but so this is going to be fun because we have the Wild Bunch up here. Poor Peter, this is his first time ever being in the show, and he doesn't know what he's getting into, and then I had to separate Trevor and David. So this is what we deal with around here. But
it was separating David for me because he scares me just a tiny bit. He's a man of many talents. And did you know he was a wrestler? Oh, okay. Maybe I just made that up.
No wrestling. So, okay. These guys all go out and about into crazy places to gather up the inspiration for their beautiful wildlife and landscape work, and they're all very different in how they do their work, but they're all absolutely passionate and inspired by the same thing, which is nature, right? And telling that story. So we get to experience their outings through their paintings, take them with us. And so let's start going from Trevor, coming this way, a little bit about how long you've been painting and why this is your medium and your subject matter.
So my name is Trevor Swanson. I've been painting professionally 35 years or so, but I kind of grew up in a family of artists. My dad, my uncle, a cousin, my great-grandfather were all painters. And early on, it was something that I had all the guys that were my influences, my teachers always said, if you find something that you love, follow that, and you will never search for a subject. It'll always be ready for you whenever you're there. For me, nature has always been that moment of that happy place where everything kind of falls away. You see the beauty, you see the world around you and these magical things that happen. That's what inspires me. That's what charges those batteries of creativity.
Yeah, for me, art started at a young age. Well, I'm Peter Mathios. For me, art started at a young age. I did not know I was going to be an artist or anything like that until I started hunting with my dad. And then when I couldn't be out with my dad, I wanted to still somehow be there. So I started drawing the duck scenes. And my first drawing was in the side margin of my textbook. And I drew a duck like launching off the water, and it looked like a duck launching off the water. So that sort of started the whole thing. And then from hunting came a passion for nature. I became a bird watcher. And it just grew from there.
I think I get often asked, why do I do wildlife? And, it's kind of like Trevor said, it's one of my happy places. I found at an early age also to spend time out in the woods and hunting, fishing. My dad, my grandparents, we just spent a lot of time. And I found it was so neat to watch animals. And it just grew from there. The more I observed and watched, that I said, you know what? And I love to draw. So I would draw and draw and draw. And I think the thing that was exciting was when other people would look at what I do and then would compliment me, kind of reinforce the fact that, you can do this. And, it made a believer of me at a very young age. And so I think I was around 12, 13 when I decided, I'm going to be an artist. This is something I want to do. And so my parents encouraged me, and I did correspondence courses, I did classes, I did things, anything I could to help kind of get my brain geared towards being an artist and what it took. Looking at other art and artists and anything to nurture my own ambition conditions to be an artist. And it started with wildlife. I think early on in the celebration, and again, my name's David Jackson. I've been here 35 years. And early on, I did and you know what? I love it every single year. It never gets old. Never gets old. And I learned way back then that this is a family that's worth being involved with. And it's nurtured me as an artist and as a person for so long. And I think, it's kind of hard to think of, or not think of doing art without being involved with the celebration and the art family that we have here, and all of you that come and encourage us and smile at our work and give us, all the encouragement as artists to do what we do and be better every year. So, watercolor, wildlife was wonderful. And then I just kind of branched out, went into sculpting, went into painting, and it's awesome career.
Thank you. Yay! How many paintings have you done, do you think? You can't even remember.
You mean all together? I painted 45 here at the show since it started. This year. This year, yeah. And my wife keeps track of them, and so I have to ask her. So where am I at? Because I when I come in here, I like something clicks, and I just turn into a painting machine, and I love it. I think the brushes are well trained. And so it's like you grab a brush and something clicks and away you go. But I think I had no idea in a lifetime how many. I used to be a high school art teacher, and so I learned how to do demonstrations very fast, because high school kids only had a short attention span. So I knew that I had about 25 minutes to paint something that they would understand and get the concept of shape, value, color, design, and make it happen so that they could see it and say, yeah, I can do that. And I think that resonates now that I just paint fast.
Hey David, can I say one thing?
Those brushes are always moving.
So one of the interesting things with this show, and you guys have all been here enough, you experienced this, everybody walks around and looks at different art, connects with different artists. One of the things that I love, and I hear so much about David's work, and I don't want to pump your ego up too much, is he's such a storyteller, and no matter what it is that he's painting, because every piece that he has, somebody engages with him, and he's just got such an easy way of telling the story, engaging you in the work, and pretty soon it's one of those things that, I was talking to David, he was telling me about this moment, and you feel like you were there. And it's just one of those, like, I know exactly what they're talking about. So I get to walk by your work all the time. Oh, that's beautiful. And you immediately drop into a story of, this is it. It's like you have also a great art ability, but you're great at storytelling without being someone that's like, you're never talking down to somebody. You're engaging them and bringing them into your story. And I love it.
Yeah, genuinely.
I thought you guys were supposed to brawl.
Yeah. A minute ago they were going to fight. No, just kidding. They were never going to fight. So, Peter, how has it been for you your first year here?
It's been quite the experience. You asked this morning about how we've grown. And this show, one thing I didn't say in the meeting this morning, this show has been a complete education for me. I've never been to the show before. And funny story, I heard you on a podcast. I don't know if you knew that part of it. Yeah, the Mark McKenna podcast, yeah. And I was...
Mark McKenna's also great. Wildlife.
Yeah. And then I went home and talked to my wife, like, what do you think about going to Wisconsin? Anyway, without even seeing the show, and I got in. When I got here that first week, I was looking around, and I had mostly small work, a couple more medium size. My biggest one was 24 by 36, and it was kind of wall to wall in my booth. I looked around the show and I saw what was in the show, and I saw the quality of the show, and I was sort of deer in the headlights. Not sort of. I was complete deer in the headlights. Like, oh my gosh, this is different. So I started talking to artists, talking to both these guys up here, and several other artists, and a lot of artists came to my booth, and everyone's been so helpful, and I started feeling really pushed artistically. So I started painting bigger. The first big painting I did was on the easel, and just went right away, which was super exciting. And then the next one is behind me, the Tetons here, and it's just that has been an experience in and of itself, because I have not painted 45 in the show. I'm getting close to finishing number 5, because I'm very highly detailed. They take a little bit longer, but speed is something I am working on, and that I feel pushed in that way as an artist as well. So this show is it's incredible for the artists to be around such a great group of artists. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'll have you know, yes, yay! I strategically placed the Tetons here to keep everybody cooler. Just picture yourself in those mountains at that meadow, the Snake River running right by, and you're there. And I think that's what I love about all of your work. But I think it's the one I used in the program of your work is Lamar Valley, and it was this bison with, what river was that?
The Lamar River, yeah.
Oh, imagine that. In Yellowstone. And I loved it, and I kept going, oh, I might have to have that. And then one day, I moved too slow, and somebody else got it, but it was a very nice man, and I'm happy he has it. But your work has so much detail, yet when you get closer, it's soft, it's like detailed and soft all at the same time. How do you do that technique?
So I paint in acrylic. I have painted in all the other mediums. I do studies in watercolor. I've done oil paintings, but for some reason I gravitated towards acrylic. I've painted for 30 years. I gravitated towards acrylic in that time. And the way I create that effect in particular is I'll loosely start a painting to get it sort of locked in, and then I start adding detail, and then I'll do what's called glazing over the detail with color, and I'll let that dry, and then I'll go back in, I'll add more darks, more lights, and I'll glaze again, and it becomes a buildup of layer after layer after layer, and so then it creates a reality, and my goal is to create a situation to where you feel like you can, like you're there, like you can, like you said, step into the painting, like you're having an experience with the work. And also to capture the spirit of the area. So yeah, that's how I do it. Lots of glazing techniques and building of detail.
And how did you turn that upside down to paint the reflection? Yeah. That's why it's always fun to come here to see. You know, like, oh, wait, which side does that go? Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm so happy that you painted it here. And Trevor, you're so well known for your all kinds of wildlife, from Africa to North America, everywhere. And you also paint on an interesting substrate.
Good point. So what I came to the show for was to kind of get out there and explain this medium that it's been 12 years now that I've been working on metal. I kind of stumbled into this whole process when a friend of mine built this cool structure to cover up his air conditioner, found a company doing these patinas for use on steel, and I fell in love with the color at that moment. And thank goodness I had somebody standing behind me that was like pushing me to go forward and saying, that's my wife, by the way. But she was saying, try this. You can see, and we could both see that the colors that were there, the texture that was there, everything about it was this beautiful surface to work with. And my kids had just started college. We had time to really kind of experiment and play with it. And it took about a year, but it was suddenly one of those things that just clicked. And it became this beautiful surface bin that has become almost an interesting canvas for me to do the work that I do. I still painted my kind of traditional, really old school type oil painting of layer on top of layer, building light and letting all that dry, but it just has such a different presentation. And then taking that one other step further, I started building the frames to go with each piece, and you'll see that they're different. It doesn't need to be encased in a regular frame, so I'm mounting it just on metal tubing or angle iron, something that gives it kind of a unique appearance, and it's allowed me to accentuate what the line work is in each piece. So I can continue on. If I've got horizontal lines that are strong in each work, I can leave that side open so your eye doesn't really stop there. So it's giving me some freedom to really play with framing, so it almost becomes like one big piece of art with the frame attached at that. And I get to play with fire, and a lot of the acids smell like rotten eggs. So it's just this great process. My neighbors love me.
So much fun. So much fun. Do you have a favorite subject? I think that's a good question for all. Like, is there a specific animal that you want to paint over and over?
For me, I think I do come back to birds quite a bit, but I started using they're Japanese sumo ink brushes. They're made for calligraphy, so they're made out of squirrel hair, goat hair, badger hair. They're all these incredible hairs. And what they do, they don't look anything like an oil brush, but they have this ability to lay down a pattern of feathers or fur, and they're very trainable. They look gnarly because they crack and they break, and it's weird colored hair, but they're just these fantastic tools. And I think my birds have really transformed when I started using those brushes because of the softness of the way that they lay down an oil paint. It's very much a watercolor technique, but with oil paint.
And before I have you guys answer that subject question, Trevor, how many paintbrushes do you have?
2 or 3.
How many?
2 or 3.
1,000.
He's
Okay, maybe 2 or 3,000.
he might need some counseling, but
You don't bring someone's up addiction in a big crowd. There's worse things to be addicted to, people. Come on.
and he takes such good care. One day he forgot to take his brushes home at night, and he was
all sweaty, tense.
he was all upset the next morning. He's like, I love my brushes.
Yeah, I think that was the first thing I said to you that next morning.
Yeah.
Turning around that guilt, I just.
But they survived, and so did Trevor. So that's the good news. Okay, do you have a favorite subject, place, or animal that you like to paint?
Yeah, so I would say there's a couple. Birds, I'm a bit of a bird nerd, so I do love painting birds, and cactus red, that's an example of it. And also I would say elk. I love the social aspect of elk and elk herds during the rut. My wife and I have experienced that together in Colorado the last few years, and we're going again this year. And then hunting on my brother-in-law's property in Oregon, get experience the rut. And there is just something to the majesty and strength and activity. I don't know how to put it into words, but elk are just fascinating to me.
Do you ever see them fall over because their antlers are so big?
I actually have an idea, and I've watercolored it already, of an elk going between aspens, like, because they're antlers, and he's going like this, and I got on video, he's going like this, and like this, and trying to get through the trees. Yeah.
Navigating its way out. Yeah.
You
Okay,
have a good new nickname for Peter, though. I'm just going to start calling him Bird Nerd.
Bird nerd.
Other people call me that, so it's
Nice. I love it.
I've learned more about birds from artists than I did from science and biology. But yeah, how about you? I remember one year at your studio is like in the basement of his house, and he took a video of just these tall legs walking by, and it was
Moose. Yeah, I live in the mountains of Utah, and where I live it's unfortunate to have animals that will come walk by my studio window, moose that will come and look in while I'm painting, and I see this shadow. I turn and there's a bull moose standing outside the window, and I go out and I take photos. And I've had opportunities to photograph some amazing animals. whether in my own yard or whether I've been hunting in the field, and getting to watch bull elk come in and stand right in front of you and be with, and see the steam snot all over it. It's like, whoa, you know, or sitting in the sagebrush out in 2 feet of snow in Wyoming to call in coyotes to a dying rabbit call, and just to watch the expression of a coyote or two coming in and stand right in front of you. And wow. And I mean, I've been fortunate over the 57 years that I've painted to spend a lot of time in the field. And thank goodness for our cell phones that we now have that can take pictures just like that. I have so many great things to paint. But early on, I was fortunate enough to have a friend that was a wildlife photographer that would go all over with wildlife groups to take photographs. And he wanted to learn to paint, so we traded. And to this day, he still sends me emails with wild animals that he's been photographing: grizzly bears, black bears, cougars, and mountain lions, and I mean, you name it. And for buffalo, the mule deer back there. That was one of those moments that he captured on his, one of his excursions to shoot photographs. I don't know that I have a favorite because I like them all. And early on in my career, I didn't want to just focus on wildlife because I like to paint so many things. I spent time in Europe painting in Switzerland and Italy and enjoying the landscape. And you know what? I kept thinking, I've got to branch out because there's so much beauty in this world. It's not just wildlife. But even though that's still where my heart's at, I see something and I envision what I would do with it on canvas. And it may be watching a movie with my wife, and I'll see a clip, and it's something, whoa, and I'll stop, pause. My wife will get mad at me, what are you doing? And I just grab my phone, take a quick shot, and all I need is just a little bit of information to generate an interest in my little bubble brain that I have to think of how I would put it on canvas. But the bronze sculptures that I do was kind of a new thing for me a few years ago that was kind of exciting to do something that I could touch and handle. And it was, then I had somebody in the show that was in my booth a couple weeks ago that were talking about my sculptures and my paintings, how they resonate a lot of similarities in the texture and how it's applied, the looseness of the paintbrush and the palette knife to how I sculpted the clay. And I thought that was fascinating. I had never thought of that before. But it's hard to pin down what a favorite is because as an artist, the world's a big place. And I hate to be kind of say, that you're my favorite. This is my favorite. That's my favorite. People ask me, what's my favorite painting in my booth? It's what's on easel. It's what's on easel.
That's good. And besides, which is their favorite painting is always a good question to ask. And it's hard for us to pick too. When Trevor and I were getting all this arranged up here, David had his work piled up over here, and Trevor brought his over here, and I was like, I think I want to switch you. And it turned out good because the bison wanted to be looking at the Snake River and the mule deer, and they would have been looking out the window. And this way, your elk is looking Yeah, so when you're arranging your art, you should pay attention to things like that because you want to have them looking to the right direction. Is that right, Trevor? I mean, you can do whatever. You can hang it any way you want on your ceiling. It's fine.
I had a roadrunner right next to a family of quail in my booth, and somebody came up and said, "That's not a good idea." Because the roadrunner was facing the baby quail, and you know what? I thought you were right, and I moved it. Just for that reason, I don't.
Those roadrunners are not very nice. The other thing I always like to hear, I mean, you have a good friend that takes photos and you have your phone, but do you all like to paint from photographs or do you like to paint plein air? Or a little both?
I love painting in my studio because I have my music going, I wear grubby clothes, I'm not in a big hurry, nobody's gonna bother me, and there's a lot of junk you have to carry if you paint out in the field. That does not attract it to me at all. But so much of my technique is layer on top of layer on top of layer. Anytime I try to do anything fast, it just ends up getting muddy. So it's easier for me to do it there. And then a lot of times, living here in the summer, I tend to do a lot of snow scenes to take my mind away from the heat. Like this, I should be working on a snow scene today. But it's something like that you just learn to access that memory, look at the photos, whatever it is that sparks that creativity, takes you back to that moment while in the studio. But a lot of that is snow technique.
Well, and Peter had this fabulous painting of elk in the snow with pine trees and in their habitat. And I looked at it a few times and I went over and I took a picture because I have a friend who's got a place in Flagstaff and she wants elk things in there, and I literally turned around and somebody came up behind me and she said, "That's going home with me." So that was another one. That's why I was telling you, things move fast here. You can't wait. But then again, I knew that it was meant just for her. But how did you do that snow?
The snow part was it was just a lot of dots, a little bit of spraying brush. Again, washes to create sort of not a mist, but almost like a haze that you see in snowfall. And then a neat detail in that particular painting was I put the breath of the elk in kind of at the last minute and just kind of brought the whole thing to life. And it highlighted the cool air that was in it.
I hate to talk about something that's not here anymore, but I think snow, I've always wondered how hard that is to do. Do you do it a little bit before you paint the animals, or after, or was that your last step?
Is the very last thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a complete landscape without snow. Yeah, and I went into that snow.
Are you glad that it turned out right, since it was the last thing?
Yes, it is a risk for sure. Yeah, but the thing is, it's a painting, so I can go back and fix it if so. Yeah, it was the very last thing.
Okay, very good. Have you, when you've been out, all of you have hunted and you go scouting, any exciting moments with animals in the wilderness or homeowners?
Definitely homeowners. I've been very fortunate when I've been out that I've had mountain lions that I've walked right by. Mountain lions, so exciting. Archery hunting or something, I back before I had my cell phone to take pictures, I had experiences where I would be on a trail and I'd watch, and there's a mountain lion, and it's on the same trail I was on, and it was so exciting. And I'm sitting there against this aspen tree, watching this mountain lion as it's walking along towards me, looking everywhere, and I know it's looking for food. And I sat right there, it was so exciting, and it walked right by me. And of course, I didn't have a cell phone, I couldn't take pictures, but the experience was like the neatest thing ever. It just kept going, I just soaked it up. I had another opportunity with a mountain lion again, and this one, I was hunting, and I was in a really tall brush on the trail, and I walk by and I'm looking and I hear a twig snap, and I look behind me and a mountain lion jumps over the trail 5 feet behind me, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I watch it bang, 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 right? And most people would be afraid, scared to death. But I was so excited, and I was just kicking myself that I didn't have any way to get any photographs, because the experience was painted. You know, the beauty of being a wildlife artist is you see something and it's going to resonate some kind of an image that you can put together. You know, you don't always need photographs. You can find other things to put that on canvas, you know, to help put it together. And, you know, thank goodness, you know, our cell phones are, I mean, holy mackerel. I don't know how I could live without a cell phone. I mean, the things that we see on a whim and take a picture of. You know, as a painter, you can't do plein air work for wildlife. They just go home still on it. But you can still paint outdoors and think of what you would put where. You know, when you see a scene, whether it's a misty stream, a lake, and you see mist coming up, I think, okay, fly fisherman, maybe. Moose, maybe, you know, or so you think of all these things of what you could put in there. And then my wife will come in and say, no, leave it alone. Don't put anything in there. It looks good. But anyway, I've had I've had black bears climb a tree that I was on when I was bear hunting. And, you know, and I watch them go right coming up the tree until they say, oh, turn around, go back down. And I've had, you know, certainly many bull elk that I've bugled in that come stand right in front of you and bugle. Coyotes that would come in, bobcats. The beauty of being a wildlife artist is that you learn to love the wildlife in their habitat, no matter what. You just do. And I think all of us are in the same boat. We just are. And it's, you know, you just live the dream of being a wildlife artist and share it with everybody that loves it. You know, just do it.
Well, it is one of those too. You're always looking everywhere you go. You're always looking for those opportunities, those moments that are out there. Half the time it feels like I've stumbled into something literally, like scooting down a trail, and I end up going a lot faster than I need to be and get to the bottom, and there's something that, oh, okay, this is what I was meant to see. It's right here. But there is, like, anytime you put yourself out there, there's always, you know, a little bit of risk, a little bit of something, element of all that. The closest I ever came to something like that was a trip to Africa. We came up on some Cape buffalo, a whole herd of those, and we had one that was down in the jungle. When we were walking back to our little boats, she came out and knocked us all down like bowling pins. But it was one of those that it took everybody by surprise. She kept going, went back with the rest of the herd, but it was one of those days like, okay, that was really close. And you just don't know. When you're out there, there's just, you know, there's opportunity for incredible experiences, but you never know what's going to happen.
You might
It could be food, exactly.
So that just happened like out of the blue, and were you just all stunned?
Well, we had been there, it was a hunting trip. We'd been there for a really long time. We'd cut up the whole bowl was done. There was so much meat, there was not room for us to get back into the boat, so we had to hike our way back. We sent the boats back to the camp. We were walking, and it was just through the jungle. But it was kind of that swampy jungle where there's only like a little bit of dry land. And I think what had happened is when we were walking back, we just got too close to where she had been huddled up in the jungle. We didn't get back to the herd. And we would say she because we feel a male would have turned around and tried to kill us. She just wanted to be back with the rest of the group. And at the same time, it was that same herd that had totally decimated our camp while we were out. They had gone through the camp. The only thing that was left were shreds of tents and while they were making jerky on the tree branches. It was the only thing that was left standing. It was an adventurous trip.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, I've had a couple incidents. I'm trying to think which one's the best one to tell. There's one on Instagram from last summer. I do carry bear spray when I'm out getting reference. And it was with elk. And in Rocky Mountain National Park, you're allowed to bugle. Like there's no, I've read the pamphlet thoroughly, so I bugle elk in the rut. And I had an elk above me answering. It ended up being about 20 yards, I would say, just uphill to my right. And then I was along a deadfall snag, and then down to my left, another elk was coming up, and he looked me like straight through my soul. Like he was looking at me, like it was something. And there's something when they look dead at you, like you're my challenge or whatever it was. And so he started coming right along the fallen tree. And so you can hear on Instagram, I'm clicking off my pepper spray, and I'm trying to scramble to get on the other side of the tree. And then he ended up just going up because that other elk was up there, ended up going by. So that was nerve-wracking for me. Another one was when I was bow hunting. This is years ago, up in this meadow. I was with my brother-in-law and my nephew, and it was kind of a wet snow situation. The snow was starting to stick, but not underneath like the trees. Like the trees were keeping it, but if you walked anywhere in the open, there's probably an inch or two of snow. And my nephew was getting cold, so my brother-in-law and my nephew decided to go back to the truck, which was probably a mile up. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna go check the lower meadows and see what I see, and I'll meet you back at the truck. So I'm on a trail, and I go down to the lower meadows, and there wasn't anything there. So I turn around and start coming back up, and I wasn't, more than 100 yards from where I turned around, and there's cougar tracks on my footprints in the snow. And then in the trees, like there was nothing because there was no snow on the ground. So I'm like, okay, he is right here. Where is he? Yeah, it was terrifying, and I never saw him. He was probably watching me the entire way. So it was a very nerve-wracking walk back to the truck in that time. And then one more quick one was in Yellowstone. I don't know if I should say this. I didn't know it was illegal to bugle in the park. And so I went there alone, and I rented a minivan for a week, and I was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and bathing in the Yellowstone River. And this painting right here is actually from that moment. The background is the elk I did see on the same trip, but I put them in this painting. But the painting is where this happened. And I was having trouble locating elk, which is shocking in Yellowstone, but this particular day I was. So I get out of the minivan and I bugle, and then up over this ridge I heard some bugling in the distance. I'm like, okay, sweet, I'll go back there. So I head up and out, and I end up in this basin, and I blow a bugle, and I had elk answer from every side of me, and they just started coming in, and I did not have bear spray. This is my younger years, totally not armed with anything, and I just ended up hunkering against a tree, and I was able to take one shot, and it's kind of a blurred shot of the elk, and his eyes are just red. You mentioned the snot. Yeah, he's like peeing, he's snotting, his eyes are red, and he's here, the cooler's right here from me, and he was coming sideways, and they ended up getting their attention on each other. So as soon as they got past me a little bit, I slid out the tree and went. Yeah. And I've happened upon a grizzly before. I don't know how long you want to go. But yeah, in Yellowstone, I was watching pronghorn, and here to the drapes, but up on a riverbank, a grizzly was walking right by, and I was again alone, and I was way away from the car or anybody, and he was just walking. He did not even look over, thank goodness. And I actually got some pretty sweet pictures of him. Yeah, so, those are those things.
Now we know where that sign comes from. Don't bathe in the Yellowstone River.
So, this bugle thing, is it something, is it just a noise, is it a noise you make, or is there a...
It's a call. So there's bugle tubes, you can have a mouthpiece. There's different types of bugles, and it imitates, I don't know how many people out there have heard.
So it's assisted by an instrument, it's
Yes.
not just
I
you.
tried it with my wife, it doesn't
Yeah.
work.
I want to hear what it sounds like a duck call. What's it sound like?
I can pull it up. Yeah,
I mean-
I'll do it in the microphone.
I mean, how many of you watched The Rut before or seen it? It's kind of crazy. If you follow Estes Park, Colorado, which is right outside Rocky Mountain National Park, you see the elk pretty much take over the town, including they'll walk in stores and, and then crazy people get too close and, but when they're in the rut, which is the mating season, you do not want to get in their way because they fight. Those bull elks will fight to the near death for the ladies.
And they look like they're drugged when you see them. Like they're just, sometimes their tongues drop to their side, and they have one thing in mind, and if there's a challenger, they have another thing in mind, and that's to kick his butt, basically. And yeah, they are charged up. They have nothing. If you present some sort of threat, you're in trouble. Because they're gonna defend their harem. Is what they're doing. Yeah. So I have a call. You ready?
Yeah.
I have not heard it yet, so I'm not exactly sure how it's going to sound. Here it comes. You guys hear it?
Yeah. Okay, keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's a high pitch, almost like the sound of a whale underwater, but it's very exciting. So now when you experience that and you look at these paintings, you can relive that moment. So very good. Such an exciting career. How fun is it that you get to go play outside and then come home and paint it? It's like very cool. I also like to talk a little bit about like your composition. Your pheasant piece over here, I think is really, I love the way you've got the composition with keep your eye traveling. You probably don't even have to think about how you do that anymore, but there is an art to that.
Well, I think it's early on, and some of that just goes back to when I taught high school. You teach composition and color and value, and sometimes you don't even think about it. It just happens. There are little rules and things to help you compose, and you want to be able to look at something and be able to go into a painting and enjoy it and see what you're supposed to look at. The pheasant one is an interesting composition because of the angles, and I think some of the other one, the mule deer one, is probably, I think, one of my favorites, just because of not only it's called November Love, but it's the softness of the background that accents the mule deer, and it kind of tells a story of hi Jenny, but it kind of tells a story of the male and the female, how you get along with your wife, or your spouse, and a bit the tracks moving into the snow, the angle of the deer looking back, it all kind of comes into play with what I want you to see. The magnificence of the big buck that's standing there, with the darkness of the background to make his antlers stand out, so that they both resonate very, very nicely. I think now the buffaloes, oh, it is, yeah, it's very tender. Yeah, I mean, it's not like me at all. The buffalo was interesting for me because I got to watch. I have a friend that has a herd of buffalo, and so I could go watch them and take photos. And it was neat to watch the birds that would want to land on its back, and that's what I'm going to put some birds on this guy. But it was fun to paint because of the energy of the brush strokes and the texture on the canvas. And if you look close, you can see that. And then in my booth over there, I have a bronze sculpture that I did first of the bison. And while I was in my studio, I kept looking at it. I liked the texture of the clay, and I thought, I'm going to paint that. And so I did the painting while the sculpture was, before it went to the foundry. and tried to get that same type of texture and composition that's in that one. And but composition is a big thing. No matter how complex or how simple the pieces that you're working with, some artists are very complex in their design of what they do, and others are very, very simple. And the end result is what counts, and what you see, and especially what you as a viewer sees, and what it resonates to you if it works. And if something doesn't work, and you're going to look at it, you're going to scratch your head, something's not right. And a lot of times it may be the composition isn't just right. So you need to kind of reevaluate how lines intersect each other, or they connect and touch each other where maybe they shouldn't. There's a lot of little things that come into play, that every artist kind of has their little tricks of the trade that when they are composing a canvas, some are very technical and they draw the lines and the grids and they sketch it all out, and some of us are kind of uncouth and we grab a brush and we just paint.
How about you guys, composition?
And I stand up and walk around. I can't
Yes,
understand.
you're not a tree.
So what I'd like to do is, when you think about something living, something that has eyes, one of the things that I was always told is that you as a person, as a living creature, are going to look at the eyes. So that's kind of one of the first things I start with. Think, where do I want you to go here? And a lot of, thinking about different things, especially when there's multiple critters like this, you'll see that all the eyes are kind of pointing in different directions. But what I'd like to do is create a triangle in everything that I do. So there's a design of a triangle, and what I'll do using that with animals or with birds is to always have those eyes in there that are going to make a connection. Because the first thing I feel like people when they walk up to a piece of their portrait or an animal is you look at the eyes, you make a connection there, and then see the rest of the piece. So that's a lot of what I do when I first are drawing things together, is where are the eyes going to be, and how can I tie that into the triangle here. This one's a little bit different of created this whole structure this way. But again, you start here, look at his eyes, make that connection, and then absorb the rest of the story from there. So it's kind of a fun, still really simple design. So really all it is just a simple triangle, but it's enough to gather 3 points of information, depending on no matter what it is, so your eye can kind of understand the whole piece at that point. Again, just like a real simple process, but I had to get him to talk about it. I can't gesture, I need to move.
Well, David asked if he could stand up, and I said no, but you can stand up if you want. Go ahead.
That $20 was worth it.
What's that?
That $20 is worth it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, what about you?
Well, I'll kind of do it. I can turn around.
Here, yeah. Who's that?
Yeah, so Trevor mentioned triangles. So this piece has a triangle situation to it, also going up with the antler and coming down through the elk. And then I also use a layering technique and then a shadow against the light here to create depth going into the piece with the bull looking on to those two cows there. And then there's techniques that I use to create a little more depth in my work, and that's putting highlights back behind shadows running through the tree so you can see through the forest that they've just come through there. So that's a little bit about that one. The cactus wren here, there's some layering again to create depth, like you got the cactus in front, the cactus in back, the highlight coming down to the bird who's actually in shadow. I did not put a big zing of light on the bird because I felt like he fit perfectly with that piece of light there. And then the Tetons, maybe lots of triangles. Yeah. So I really wanted, with the Tetons, I really wanted depth and realism, and to feel the reflection of this mountain. And this morning was spectacular when I was there. and I wanted to capture what I saw and felt that morning. And when I was painting this, I was thinking about not just the Tetons, but about all the depths and layers of the trees that go back through here. This is actually a ribbon, a small like strip of ribbon off the Snake River right here. And the main channel's back behind these trees and runs through there. So I kind of bent the water back, had the Tetons kind of on a rule of thirds line, which is kind of a technique used in developing composition where you break a canvas into thirds. So you go like a third, and you can see across here where the line of the Tetons and clouds are. And so while I was painting, I was just thinking about walking like through the trees and hiking around in there and the whole thing, and then wanting to make the mountains pop against the darker sky. So
It's good. It's always the magic behind what you do that nobody really knows, and you do it so naturally. You've all been doing it so long, but thank you for sharing that, you guys. You can stand up. Okay, let's see if we have anybody that has questions, because we've covered a good deal of things, but we always have some good questions.
Okay, you all are artists, you're also hunters. Do you ever have any conflict between hunting an animal and painting an animal? And how do you resolve that conflict?
can I tell a quick story real quick? Based exactly on that. I used to rifle hunt. I switched over to bow hunting, and I was bow hunting with my son-in-law. And we actually got onto a herd of elk. And when you see hunting with a rifle, when you see an elk, then it's kind of over. When you see an elk with a bow, then it begins. Because you got to get really close, the whole thing. So we were on a pretty large herd of elk, and I saw my son-in-law tailing them. He was, 150 yards away from me, and I was on the other side of the herd walking with them, and they were crossing this meadow, and the light, it was a late afternoon light, and the light hit them, and I was only 60 yards, so I was getting within range. Like, I'm not comfortable with that distance, but another 10 or 15 yards, I may let an arrow fly, but the artist in me took over. And what I did is I got out my cell phone, I dropped to my knees, and I videoed the elk leaving the meadow and entering the trees, thinking in my head, I'll catch back up to him. But I wanted to get that on. It was amazing. The whole sight was incredible. And then I ended up never seeing the herd again. Yeah.
So you became an artist.
Yeah. I switched. That gear is. I'm actually a terrible hunter. Yeah. I've never shot an animal with my bow. And I am out there. My camera's right here. I'm taking pictures. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But you are. But I am in a way. Yeah. So that's a long. Yeah.
My family was, I've been married 53 years, 4 kids, and we lived off of what I hunted for years. That was what we had. And so for all those years, I had 2 different things. Feeding my family, because I did. It was all, and it wasn't that it had to be the big buck or the big bull, but it was food on the table, and then the experience of being in the wild and seeing things that would resonate to me and on canvas. And that was, the same with, as I got older and my kids were grown, things changed quite a bit. And now I use the hunting as an excuse to get out in the field. And I've got my wife convinced over all these years that it's hunting season, it's time for me to go. And it gets me out of the house, so I don't have to do dishes. But it's more of an excuse now just to get out and to be there and enjoy it. And you learn over the years. The more time you spend out in the field, you learn the animals that you're around, and not just the ones you're hunting, but the ones that you may see around you that just happen to be there. And everything you see, I mean, the beauty of being an artist is you see things differently than everybody else. You just literally do. I mean, I sit here and I look out at all of you, and I see all of these interesting shapes and people, faces, and and I can see a painting, and it's just part of our bubbles that we have for brains. We're just a different breed, but thank goodness, because we get to share what we do, and whether it's wildlife, whether it's landscape, whether it's florals, whether it's sculptures, whether it's whatever, the beauty of what we do and we can share. And in this show, it's phenomenal work of some amazing artists. So, yeah.
This would be a beautiful painting. Yeah. Look at all these great faces.
When you artists go out into the field, is it sometimes just on a daily basis, or when you go out, are you figuring you're going to be out overnight, several nights, or a week at a time?
With me, it's what my wife will let me do. She said, "Get out of the house."
You're so lucky to have her.
I know it. I am so lucky. She's amazing. But you know what? If you're fortunate enough to have time to be able to spend out and just go, and I've never been to Africa. That's been on my list, but I've kind of chickened out a little bit because I didn't want to be lion food. But I think anytime you can spend anywhere out, whether it's a day, a week, it's gonna resonate to you as an artist and your growth. Speak, Trevor.
There we go. I turned it off. But it's like to answer that, it's whatever it takes. Like we were able to do a big long river trip down the Grand Canyon this last summer, and it was amazing. Multi-day trip, but there's something about just going out, even if it's for an afternoon, to watch the sunset as it plays across the mountain peaks. It's just, it doesn't matter really how long it is. It's the quality of time that's out there. You just take what you can get wherever you are. It's really what it comes down to. It's there. You just have to be open to it. The hardest part is when you're driving, you have to be somewhere. It's like, I just want to stop and take pictures right now. You gotta get there.
I spend a lot of time outside. September in particular, most of that month is in the mountains, and I do camp. Other times we're campers, backpackers, hikers. We go all the time. Near my house, there's several wildlife refuges. So I'll go out like in the morning and be back by like 10, and mostly for waterfowl and stuff like that. But yeah, I spend a lot of time outside. Yeah.
Where do you live?
Oregon. I'm from Oregon. Yeah.
How about the elk on Cannon Beach?
Yeah.
Running.
I've seen them.
Yeah. I love being outdoors, but I'm not a camper. I'm not good at that. We did camp a lot when we were kids. We went to Rocky Mountain National Park multiple times, and others. Yep. So, not that you asked me that question, Dave, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. Okay, those are good questions. Do we have any other burning questions? Anything online? Does this make you want to go out and hang out with these guys in the wilderness? Yeah. You guys are amazing. Yeah. And before you do that, you can go visit them in their studios right here at the Celebration of Fine Art. David Jackson is just down the way here. You'll run into him if you go that way. He'll throw some paint on you maybe. Yep. Peter is on the north tent on the outside wall toward the end, and well worth the walk. And Trevor is on the south side, about the same distance back as Peter. And you also have some outdoor pieces, which we didn't really talk about, but all the metalwork can be outdoors as well. So if your walls are full indoors, you got one outside.
I got you covered for the outdoors.
I definitely want to thank you, Trevor. Thank you very much. You're always fun, and Peter.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you guys.
And thank you to all of you. You do make everything we do worth it. We love having the collectors come and enjoy. And
Beth, thank you for the Photoshop you'll do later.
and yes, thank you to the lovely Beth and to Doug and Kim for hosting everything. But have a beautiful day. And next Friday is our last season, art discovery of the 2026 season. I'm sorry. Featuring Pete Tilak. He's the crazy one. He's trying to pretend he's not there. And Gabriella. It's called What's the Message? So thank you all. Have a great evening.